Hey, welcome back. It's your boy Will J, and welcome to a special episode. Now, before everything, I just want to thank you guys so much. We did it. We hit 300 subscribers. That might not sound like much compared to the bigger content creators out there, but I mean, I started out with like 4, and those were all like people I knew. So to hit 300 is, I'm just grateful. And as promised, today it's gonna be gameplay. Editing this was a learning process for me, but I still hope you enjoy it. And if you haven't yet, please make sure to leave a like and subscribe. I mean, this has been pretty amazing for me personally to just see the channel grow, and I hope you can be a part of it. Today we have 4 players squaring off. Bob is playing his Neheb deck that's looking to burn his opponents, generate big mana, and use that to fuel more burn. Gerald brought his Millicent Spirit tribal deck that wants to go wide to send his opponents to the Shadow Realm. I mean, Azorius is an aggro color, right? Fidge is playing his Sisay with Maze's End as his primary win con, but he's bringing along some of her super friends as a backup plan in hopes of comboing out and making the win legendary. And finally, Justin geared up for this game with his Galea deck chock full of auras and equipments for a good old-fashioned beatdown. If his creatures can't finish the job, then Galea's there to kindle some hope, Voltron style. Call your shot. Who do you think's gonna win it all? Have you picked the commander yet? Good. Our story begins on turn 1. Bob kicks things off at a mountain and passes. Gerald plays an irrigated farmland and he too passes. Fitz takes a moment, and if you're wondering why it looks like he has 2 libraries, it's because it's triple sleeved and it'll topple otherwise. Anyway, he eventually puts down a Azorius Guildgate, and the table immediately reacts because who triple sleeves a deck and runs tapped Guildgates? Justin plays a Temple of Plenty, and this prompts some singing from the table. Have a listen. Bob plays another mountain and casts Swiftfoot Boots. Gerald plays the Plains and passes with 2 untapped lands, but I honestly don't know if he's packing counter spells in this deck. Fidz confirms what everyone's thinking and plays Maze's End. Justin plays the Skycloud Expanse and he starts his ramp with Avacyn's Pilgrim. Bob plays his 3rd land and suspends a Wheel of Fate. Wheels are coming, boys! Gerald plays Unclaimed Territory and he ramps as well while setting up future attacks with Strixhaven Stadium. Fidz plays a command tower, then casts Peer, Imaginative Rascal, setting up his secondary Superfriends game plan. Justin plays Reliquary Tower, and he ramps hard this turn, first playing Nature's Lore, where he searches out a basic forest, and then follows that up with a Fertile Ground. So despite being last in the turn order, he's now raced out to the most mana after 3 turns. How's your pick looking? The Wheel of Fate ticks down a 3, and speaking of ramp, Bob misses his land drop and just passes his turn. Oof. Gerald plays Path of Ancestry, which comes into play tap, and then he plays Skull Clamp. He then floats 3, adding a point counter onto the stadium, and then he plays a Ghostly Prison. Fidz plays a Forest, and then he shows us why he's triple sleeved as he plays Burgeoning, letting him play lands on other players' turns. Justin continues ramping with Utopia Sprawl, and then he casts Steel Shaper's Gift. He searches out the Sword of the Anime, and then he attacks Bob. And it's at this point we realize that we didn't really set up life totals, but don't worry, we'll fix that in a bit. He then plays Castle Vantress, which triggers Fidz's Burgeoning, and Fidz puts down a Deserted Temple. On Justin's end step, Bob plays Commune with Lava where X is 1. He fortunately reveals a mountain off the top, and he moves on to his untap step. The Wheel of Fate ticks down a 2, and Bob plays the Exiled Mountain. This triggers Burgeoning again, and Fidz puts down a Gruel Turf, bouncing a forest back to his hand. Bob then plays the saddest of all robots, and he fetches out a mountain. Gerald taps 2 to play Military Intelligence, but it seems he's had no luck in drawing any creatures, and so thus far, it's an enchantment that does nothing yet. On his end step, Fidz activates Maze's End, and he searches out Gaunt Gate. This prompts some table talk as they try to figure out how to stop Fidz's value train. There's even this conspiracy theory that one of his piles is just all lands and the other pile is all gas. All kidding aside, Fidz plays a Maze's End for his turn and then he passes. Justin misses another land drop and casts Kasali Pride Mage. He then equips the sword and attacks Fidz, and with the Exalted trigger brings him down to 37. He searches out a forest and passes the turn. Wheel of Fate takes down a 1, meaning this is the last turn everybody gets to keep their hand, and so it's time to go all out. Bob plays a mountain, and Fidz puts down a World Tree. He then casts Neheb and equips him with the boots to give him haste. Neheb and the robot attack Fidz, bringing him down to 31, and when Bob starts his second main, he makes 6 dirty red mana thanks to Neheb's ability. He uses it all to play a 6-drop, Dreamstone Hedron, which is about as fair of a 6-drop as you can get. Gerald finally finds a creature and plays Mirror Hall Mimic, copying Neheb. In response, Fidz untaps his Maze's End using his Deserted Temple, and he activates it to search out Baldur's Gate. Gerald scries because of Path of Ancestry, and he bottoms it. He then taps the Stadium to give it another counter, and with the mana, equips the Skull Clamp onto the Spirit Neheb. Fidz plays Maze's End once more, and finally, Sisay is out. As he goes to pass the turn, Justin plays Crozen Grip on his end step, targeting the Burgeoning. Justin then untaps for his turn and plays an Eternal Witness, putting the Crozen Grip back to his hand, which he then uses to grip the Strixhaven Stadium. It crumbles in a split second, and afterwards, he plays Elvish Mystic. He then moves to combat, punching Bob and bringing him down to 35, while also searching out another basic. The Wheel of Fate has finally shifted, and the final time counter is removed. While it's on the stack, Bob holds priority and plays a Price of Progress. Fidz pays it unhappily, and he takes 16 damage, which brings him down to 15. Gerald takes 6, taking him down to 34, and Justin takes 8, which puts him at 32. Still on his upkeep, Bob then casts Chaos Warp, and the Maze's End gets lost in the shuffle. Fidz flips the top, and a Navigation Orb comes out on the other side of the warp. Finally, the wheel resolves and everybody draws a fresh 7. Bob plays a mountain on his first main, and with a refueled hand, plays a Leyline Tyrant, which will let him keep all his dirty mana as steps, phases, and even turns end. He enters combat, and Neheb and the robot both swing at Fidz's face, and in response, Fidz uses Sisay's ability to tutor out Jace, Cunning Castaway, who enters with 4 loyalty thanks to Peer. Sisay blocks the Solemn, and Fidz takes 4, leaving him at 11. Beginning his second main, 34 dirty red mana floats to the surface, and Bob uses 5 of that to cast Kumano Master Yamabushi. Now I know what you're thinking. Who? Yep, I thought the same thing too. He apparently only shows up in 16 Neheb decks according to EDH Rec, and well, you guys are seeing one of those 16 now. Bob sinks 22 red mana to deal the final 11 to Fidz, and we have our first KO. To those who bet on Fidz, sorry guys, but you pick him next time. Bob passes his turn pretty satisfied, and he banks the 7 red mana thanks to the Leyline Tyrant. Gerald's up next, and he plays an island, and then he follows it up with a Sword of Feast and Famine. He equips it onto the spirit version of Neheb, and then he moves to combat, attacking Justin for 7, cutting him down to 25. The Sofaf triggers, and Gerald untaps his lands while Justin discards a land. Moving to his second main, Gerald floats 7 dirty red mana, and he uses 4 of that to help cast Millicent. Because he used Path of Ancestry, he gets to scry, and then he keeps that card on top. He then uses 2 more of the dirty red mana to help cast Restoration of Eiganjo. I don't know if I pronounced that right. This lets him put a Plains to hand, and he then equips the Sofaf to Millicent before passing. Justin plays a Port Town, revealing an island, and Galea finally joins the fray. He looks at the top card and is met only with disappointment. He plays Shielding Plaques, giving Galea Hexproof, and more importantly, he draws a card. He then brainstorms to draw 3 more and put 2 back. And with the top of his deck loaded, he plays a Basilisk Collar off of it, getting a free attach thanks to Galea's ability. Bob untaps and plays a mountain, and then for his first trick, with the 7 banked dirty red mana, he casts Goblin Game. And again, I know what you're thinking. What? What kind of jank-ass deck? So again, according to EDH Rec, this only gets played in 26 Neheb decks, and you're looking at one of them. Gerald and Justin talk it out, strategizing how to best play this game, how many objects they'll hide, how many objects they actually have in their pockets right now. I'm just kidding, they use dice. And in the end, Bob shows 5, which brings him down to 30, Gerald shows 2, bringing him to 32, and Justin shows 1, bringing him down to 24. But because Justin also had the lowest number, he loses half his life, and this burns him all the way down to 12. Bob then sacrifices the Dreamstone Hedron, drawing him 3 more cards, before skipping combat and going straight to his second main. This lets him float 15 dirty red mana, and then he heats things all the way up with Jaya's Immolating Inferno, where X is 15, targeting Justin, Gerald, and Millicent. He then puts the nail in the coffin, playing a dual caster mage. And you can see Gerald clapping in the background as the copied Inferno blasts him and his board for another 15 damage. This knocks Justin out the game and Gerald down to 2 life. With no real board state and nothing good in his hand, Gerald scoops it up and Bob and Neheb the Eternal emerge victorious. Congratulations Bob for winning on cam, and shouts out to the Fids, Gerald, and Justin for making it a fun game between friends. Some post-game commentary from yours truly. Fids was actually one untapped step away from comboing out with Pier, Jace, and Nicol Bolas Dragon God, which was already in his hand. So Bob absolutely made the right decision, taking him out as early as he did. If you're not seeing it, I'll try my best to explain the combo. Nicol Bolas would have come in with 5 loyalty thanks to Pier's ability, and since it also has the loyal ability of all the other planeswalkers on the battlefield, Fids would then have Nicol Bolas activate Jace's -5 ultimate, essentially making 2 more copies. Those 2 boluses would then come in with 5 loyalty and would ult again, creating 4 boluses, and so on until he'd have enough Dragon Gods to finally +1 so that he can exile each opponent's hand and permanents, including lands, while also drawing a ton of cards. With the board locked out, Fids would then have no problem getting enough loyalty in a future turn for one of his boluses to activate the -8 ultimate and have each opponent lose the game. It's a shame we didn't get to see the Spirits take over, as Gerald was hit with some bad draws, but I've seen his Millicent deck go off and it's a blast to go up against. Justin's Galea was able to race out to a fast start, but it looked like the wheel didn't give him much gas and he just couldn't get it going as quickly as Bob. If I had to award the card of the game, this was a tough one because I do love my jank, but it's gotta go to Price of Progress. It hit hard, it gave Bob a huge mana boost, which then set him up for future turns, and eventually the win. But let me know what you guys think in the comments on which card you thought was the real MVP, and also I'd love to get some feedback on this type of content. Once again, my sincerest thank yous to the brave 300 who are subscribed, and if you're not one of them, then it's never too late. I really want to keep this channel going, keep it growing, and honestly, your likes, subscribes, and comments really help me stay inspired. So thank you, I can't say it enough. I hope to hit, 500 subscribers next? I don't know what I'll do for that just yet, but I'll let you know when I know. So until then, stay inspired, friends, and I'll see you next time.